Imagine being the very best like no one ever was. Look, in the entertainment industry, there is a certain level of achievement that only a handful of people have gotten. And that is called an EGOT, an EGOT, which stands for an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. A very special set of 4 incredible achievements that an artist can receive. We just, this weekend, got a new EGOT and a new EGOT contender all in one award. So let's take a quick look at some of our EGOT winners and some of our contenders and highlight what it is that makes them the best of the best. So here are some of the best of the best of the EGOTs. Now let me say, on this stream, since we talk about a lot of movies and television, we also have our unofficial EGOTs, which is people who win a Golden Globe instead of a Grammy. Because, hey, not everyone can sing, okay? Not everyone can sing. But that is not taken into account here. We are using the legal distinction of EGOT for the purposes of this presentation. So when did this all get started? This was started all the way back in what would have been 1961 with Richard Rodgers, who was our first EGOT recipient. Richard Rodgers contributed to, very famously, The Sound of Music is probably what you're most familiar with him, as well as The King and I and other various successful musicals. Now, if you're not aware of what the different awards are, the Emmys are... Imagine getting a Golden Globe and not making it. Hey, look, it's still a great deal. It counts on this stream. But the Emmys are the awards that are given out for achievements in television. There are different types of Emmys. There's Creative Arts Emmys, which are usually more for the technical caliber. That's where you'll see like, Best Original Score or Best Programming. Here, there's the Daytime Emmys, where you'll see things like, Best Talk Show, Best... children's programming, things like that. And then there's the Primetime Emmys, and those are the big ones that have, Best Drama Series, Best Actor, things of that nature. So back in 1962, Richard Rodgers won his Emmy for Winston Churchill, The Valiant Years. Then there's the Grammys, of course. The Grammys are usually given out for achievements in music, but really it's just for official album releases. So you'll also see original Broadway recordings can qualify for Grammys. Stand-up comedy albums can qualify for Grammys. And the Grammys have expanded over the years to include even more categories, including, music videos and music documentaries. Wink, wink, foreshadowing. Which Richard Rodgers has won 2 Grammys for The Sound of Music and for No Strings, their original albums coinciding with the releases of the musical. The Oscars, of course, the Academy Awards, which are given out to movies that release in the theaters. Very specifically, if you want to get technical for the Academy Awards, it's movies that release in theaters and run for at least 2 weeks in New York and LA, which are where most of the Academy members are based out of. And in 1946, Richard Rodgers received an Oscar for The State Fair. And then the Tonys, last but not least, are the awards given out for achievements in theatrical entertainment. So these are the Broadway equivalent of the Grammys or the Oscars. And they have, Best Original Musical, Best Performers, Best Book, Best Lyrics, Song, etc., etc. And Richard Rodgers was very, very successful with his 4 different Tony Awards over the years. So he was our first official EGOT. And to be honest, it was quite a while before we got the next one, which was technically Barbra Streisand in the 1970s. Now, you'll notice this asterisk here for Barbra Streisand. Now, some people would argue, look, as if it's bad enough that a Golden Globe doesn't count, some people would argue that honorary awards or special awards that are given out don't count. having an Emmy is having an Emmy, right? Having a Tony is having a Tony. You got that trophy on your shelf. It counts. You know, it counts. Whether it be something that you are given for a specific performance or specific thing, or if it's the Academy, the group coming together to reward you, it counts. But, you know, there's some people out there who are sticklers, so we got to point it out. But Barbra Streisand won many Emmys over the years for My Name is Barbara, Barbara in Concert, Timeless in Concert, Barbra Streisand, the movie, the album, several Grammys as well, almost too many to list, as well as a couple Oscars for Best Actress in Funny Girl and Best Original Song in A Star is Born. But she did not reach her EGOT status until the 1970s when she was given the Tony Honorary Award for being the star of the decade. Is it an honorary Tony to get the EGOT? Because maybe that's like Golden Globe. An honorary Tony counts more than a Golden Globe would. But, you know, maybe we can make like an EGOT that also includes the Golden Globes. We can't get hung up on the Globes, chat. Our next EGOT came with Liza Minnelli in 1973 when she won her Emmy for Liza with a Z. We had her Grammy Award in 1990. She became an EGOT in 1990 when she received her Legend Award. 1972, her Oscar for Cabaret, and many a Tony, including a special Tony Award. Now look, I'm gonna jump around here. There's gonna be a lot of different EGOTs. It's too many to fit in one presentation, so we're gonna be skipping ahead a few. But these are just folks that I personally felt were worth highlighting. But please feel free to look into it a little bit more. There's a lot of legendary EGOT winners, including Rita Moreno, one of our first Latinas to earn an EGOT. Shout out, Rita. Receiving an Emmy for her guest appearance on The Muppet Show. Awesome. So the Muppets are technically responsible for an EGOT. I want you to sit with that for a minute. Rita also received a Grammy for being part of the Electric Company original album. Received her Oscar for West Side Story in 1961, I believe, making her the first Latina to win in that category. And then also her Tony for her performance in The Ritz. So she became EGOT status in 1977 when she won her first Emmy for The Muppet Show. Awesome. Audrey Hepburn is our next EGOT winner here, who became, unfortunately, I believe, posthumously became a EGOT winner here. In 1993, she received an Emmy for Gardens of the World, received a Grammy for Audrey Hepburn's Enchanted Tales, an Oscar for Roman Holiday, and received a Tony for Ondine, and then a special Tony Award. Audrey Hepburn, unfortunately, did not live to see her EGOT status, but on top of just being a legendary entertainer, she is also in this Hall of Fame herself. Mel Brooks was our next EGOT winner here, with several Emmys to account for, as well as having a pretty successful run with one particular project. It doesn't happen often. There's a couple examples here of people who almost had the full sweep, but Mel Brooks got pretty dang close with The Producers specifically, which is what earned him his EGOT status. Received a Grammy and an Oscar for The Producers, as well as getting a Tony for The Producers when it was brought into the live stage. So good for him for making a movie that won him an Oscar, and then taking that movie to the theater and winning him a Grammy and a Tony. Shout out Mel Brooks, man. And he's still out here and he's still kicking. Whoopi Goldberg, also EGOT status winner. I believe the first Black woman to achieve EGOT status, with her Emmys on 2002 and 2009 for, her daytime performances like The View and Beyond Terra here. Received a Grammy for Whoopi Goldberg original Broadway show recording. Did you know there was a Whoopi Goldberg Broadway show? I didn't. I found out today, and I also found out it was a Grammy-winning album. Of course, her famous role, supporting role on Ghost, which won her an Oscar back in 1990. I grew up on that movie, and I knew she was funny, and I knew she was incredible. I didn't find out till many years later that she was Oscar-winning for that movie. And frankly, I just love to see like the comedic supporting character who obviously has her deep moments in there being not just nominated but winning. It makes me think back of like Melissa McCarthy being nominated for her role in Bridesmaids. I don't believe she won that year, but imagine if she had. And then, of course, her Tony, which helped her gain her EGOT status in 2002 with Thoroughly Modern Millie. Moving on here, James Earl Jones. Of course, the legend who is most famously, I believe, known for being the voice of Mufasa and Darth Vader, is also an EGOT here, receiving the status officially in 2011 when he was given an honorary award from the Academy and received an Oscar then. But also fantastic work with his stage presence. I know most people know him for his voice, but he was a extremely prolific stage actor, Great White Hope, Fences, and of course a Lifetime Achievement Award. Shout out James Earl Jones. Now, Robert Lopez, you might not recognize the face, but you'll recognize his voice, or more specifically, his songs. Robert Lopez is the only person who has reached EGOT status twice. He has double EGOT. Robert Lopez has 4 different Emmy wins for Wonder Pets and Rapunzel's in Rapunzel's Tangle Adventure in children's television, as well as his Emmy Award for original song Agatha All Along in WandaVision. He has won 3 Grammys, including The Book of Mormon, Frozen, and Coco. He has won 2 Oscars for Let It Go and Remember Me from Frozen and Coco, and 2 Tony Awards for Book of Mormon and Avenue Q, the legendary Tony from Avenue Q beating out Wicked for Best Original Musical. There's a really good video essay out there that talks through what happened that gave Avenue Q the win over Wicked, and it is a crazy story. And because of that crazy story, Robert Lopez is a 2-time EGOT winner. Now, he's got 4 Emmys. He's got 3 Grammys. So, 1 more stage show and 1 more Oscar, and he could be our first triple EGOT? Maybe. Yeah, the Disney Book of Mormon mashup is not what we expected, but it's kind of there if you listen to Book of Mormon. A fantastic musical, of course, that was championed by Matt Stone and Trey Parker of South Park fame, who are big musical theater lovers if you've ever actually watched like the South Park movie or anything like that. Remember Me was also a huge upset. I talk about this a lot when we do our awards analysis. Remember Me was an upset win over The Greatest Showman's This Is Me, which had fantastic radio play, was super noteworthy outside of just the awards conversation, but Remember Me ended up winning, which is why you never bet 100% on something, because you never know when it's a sure thing. Quincy Jones, famed producer and father of Rashida Jones, that's right, she's a Nepo baby, did you know that? Is another EGOT winner. 1977 Emmy for Roots, over 28 Grammy wins. That's what you get when you produce for icons like Michael Jackson. 2 honorary Oscars. Now, some people might want to push back against that, but come on, it's only fair. A humanitarian, specifically the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award, and the Honorary Academy Award And then lastly, for producing The Color Purple in 2016. The Color Purple will appear again. Andrew Lloyd Webber, of course, legendary theater icon. Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber, sorry. Let's respect the knighthood. Won his Emmy for Jesus Christ Superstar live in concert. Has won 3 Grammys for Evita, Cats, and Requiem. 1996 Oscar for Evita as well. And Tony Awards for Evita, Cats, Phantom of the Opera, Sunset Boulevard, and a very appropriate Lifetime Achievement Award. Andrew, you just gotta crank one out for television and then for theater. No, for movie theater. Okay, so maybe he can't really double EGOT very easily. That's a lot of work to do something huge for television and for the theaters, but incredible. John Legend, also an EGOT status. Hey, can we take a quick moment to acknowledge the amount of people of color who have qualified for EGOT, specifically Black artists? Shout out. Incredible. That's awesome. For being a part of an industry that has famously disregarded a lot of minority groups and people of color. Here they are, shining brighter than everyone else. So props to y'all. John Legend also got his Emmy for Jesus Christ Superstar live in concert. So many Grammys, over 12 wins throughout his prolific career. Received his Oscar for Selma's Glory, and then got his Tony with Jitney back in 2017. So he became officially an EGOT when he received his Emmy back in 2018. Alan Menken. Now this was somebody who, when I was building my list, I almost skipped him because I didn't recognize the name. And maybe you don't initially, but Alan Menken is responsible for so many of our childhood, specifically a lot of the Disney Renaissance music that we all grew up loving. He became an EGOT in 2020 for his music contributions to Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure, Daytime Emmy Award for children's television. Over 11 Grammy wins with a lot of his original albums for motion pictures, including, the same ones that he won Oscars for 4 over the years, for Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas. This man is responsible for the soundtrack of your childhood. And then, of course, his Tony Award came from Newsies. Shout out Newsies. There's a recording of it on Disney Plus, which is very pleasant and very sweet. And oh lordy, the accents that they talk in that show. But Alan Menken, you might not recognize him immediately, but you certainly recognize his work. Jennifer Hudson received her EGOT in 2022 with her contributions to A Strange Loop. She did receive her Oscar for Dreamgirls, and of course, once again, The Color Purple making an appearance here, getting her second Grammy, and then her Baba Yaga Emmy. Fun story about Baba Yaga. I don't actually fully know what Baba Yaga is. I just know that I think it was Jenny Nicholson on Twitter back in 2021 when Mandalorian started airing on Disney Plus, and there was like maybe the 3-hour period that we all weren't talking about spoilers yet, where we didn't talk about we didn't want to talk about Baby Yoda and spoil it for everyone who hadn't seen the show yet. Jenny Nicholson was like, I'm going to affectionately call the thing that we're all supposed to talk about Baba Yaga. And I loved it, and I always thought that was so funny. So I still occasionally will call Grogu Baby Yoda Baba Yaga. Viola Davis! And look, I said it before, I'll say it again. Another black woman got EGOT status. Look, they say EGOTs are best of the best. There's a lot of black women on here. I think we can draw some conclusions. Some of them are the GOATs. Viola Davis, of course, her incredible career with her How to Get Away with Murder series back in 2015 got her Emmy. A Grammy win for her audiobook performance in 2023. Now, look, if an honorary award can count, an audiobook Grammy can certainly count. Received her Oscar for her 2016 performance in Fences, which, funny enough, also won her a Tony back in 2010. Not a lot of instances of people winning acting awards in multiple categories. Now, some could argue there's somebody in our EGOT Contenders category who maybe would have finished her status had she taken this approach of reprising a role from the stage on the screen, but we'll get to that later. Elton John is one of our newest EGOT winners with his Farewell from Dodger Stadium tour television special. 5 Grammy wins over his career, 2 Oscars for original songs from The Lion King and Rocketman, and received a Tony for his contributions to the Ada musical. And this is our first EGOT duo. They are technically each individually EGOT recipients, but everything they have been awarded for is things that they collaborated on. So they are EGOT duo. Benji Pasek and Justin Paul received their Emmy in 2024 for Only Murders in the Building for Which of the Pickwick Triplets Did It? Fantastic show, fantastic song. I still haven't seen season 4. I need to get on that. They also received their Grammys for Dear Evan Hansen and The Greatest Showman, all in the same year. Very successful year for them. City of Stars won them the Oscar in 2016. As I mentioned, 2017, huge upset when they didn't receive, or 2018, sorry, huge upset when they didn't receive their Oscar for This Is Me from Greatest Showman. There's never a sure thing. And then, of course, Tony Awards for Dear Evan Hansen and A Strange Loop. And now that puts us to our newest EGOT recipient, this new up-and-coming young face in Hollywood, maybe you know him, Steven Spielberg, received his EGOT status on Sunday night at the Grammy Awards for his documentary Music by John Williams, because the Grammys also celebrate movies about musicians. Several Emmys throughout the years, including 2 for the Animaniacs, which, if you didn't know, Steven Spielberg was one of the lead producers of that show. And then for Band of Brothers and the spiritual successor, The Pacific. Best Picture winners for Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, and then also involved in A Strange Loop, which got him his Tony Award. Now, let's talk about the folks who are almost EGOT status. We have a couple people who are just shy of receiving their awards, and I'm curious to know, chat, who you think is going to be the next winner. I have a pretty strong guess, and I have placed them last on this list, and maybe I'm curious to know if you can guess who they are before we get there. So who do you think is the next EGOT winner? Don't look it up. Just guess off vibes. Someone who is very close is Kristen Anderson Lopez. So we mentioned that her husband, scrolling back up, Robert Lopez, is our only double EGOT recipient. Well, Robert's wife is actually his writing partner as well, and is almost there. She is 1 award short for her EGOT, so they could be a triple EGOT household if she wins her Tony soon. But she received the same awards as he did, of course, for WandaVision, Frozen and Coco, and she was nominated for the stage adaptation of Frozen, but ultimately did not win. So it's time to get back on the stage. He's got his for Avenue Q and Book of Mormon. Maybe, Kristen, you got to do your own thing. And get your Tony there. John Baptiste is also a Tony away from EGOT status. Has not been nominated for a Tony yet, but John, you got so many Grammy Awards. You got your Emmy. You got your Oscar. Why not just dive into the stage for a little bit? Look at this. Look at how many Grammys this man is holding. That's so many. with 3, they should melt the set down and mix it all up. You know, I get you can find a mold for a Tony. What does the Tony Award look like? Would the Tony Award be hard to... Oh, see, that's how they get you. That's how they get you, chat. Because the Emmys are gold, the Oscars are gold, the Grammys are gold, but the Tonys are silver. You can't melt it down. That's why it's so hard to get a Tony. It's made of a different material. Even the Golden Globes are gold. Adele is a Tony short of EGOT status. Funny, it's funny to think Adele One Night Only wins an Emmy because it wasn't One Night Only because they shot it and it got her an Emmy. She's gotten so many Grammys over the year. Won her Best Original Song for Skyfall, which is the best James Bond song. We'll see. We'll have some new ones coming out soon. Still hasn't won her Tony. She's taking a break from live performing, and you know, I know it takes her ages to write an album, but hey, Adele, throw a musical in there. What's the worst that'll happen? You win an EGOT. Cher is also a Tony short. Man, that elusive Tony Anthony, hard to grab ya. Cher would be at risk of having the asterisk EGOT with her Lifetime Achievement Award at the Grammys, but her album Believe also did receive a Grammy. So she's up there. She's up there as a true and honest contender. And so is Common. Have y'all noticed a theme here? Now, Common did actually try for his Tony. He did have his Broadway debut recently. Unfortunately, not successful enough to win him his EGOT status, but received his Oscar for Selma, as well as continuing to win several Grammys over the years, and his Emmy for Letter to the Free from the documentary 13th, which I think everyone should watch. It is very good. Now, Cynthia Erivo. Cynthia. She almost had the sweep. Cynthia Erivo received a Tony, an Emmy, and a Grammy for The Color Purple, and famously passed on the opportunity to be in the Colored Purple musical remake that was made on the big screen, which maybe could have gotten her Oscar, but it didn't. She could have fully had the Color Purple sweep. Cynthia was close, though. She was nominated twice, once for Harriet for Best Original Song and once for Wicked for Best Performance by an Actress. Unfortunately, did lose out in both. So, hey, Cynthia, you got your chance someday soon, hopefully. Unfortunately, it won't be for Wicked Part 2, which she was not nominated for. Good luck, Cynthia. Good luck. Ludwig Göransson. Ludwig Göransson is a very promising contender. Now, Ludwig, if he decided he wanted to do a couple stage adaptations, has set himself up for a double EGOT with 2 Emmys, 2 Grammys, 2 Oscars, and I believe 2 Golden Globes as well. Let me double check. Ludwig Göransson has 2 Golden Globe wins. So if he decided to get into stage writing and wrote 2 Tony-winning musicals, he could be a double EGOT recipient. But at the very least, he could be an EGOT recipient. And then I believe next up is my prediction. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry. Ron Howard. Ron Howard is also a Tony short. Ron Howard received EGOT runner-up contender potential the same night that Steven Spielberg got his EGOT with participating in the Music by John Williams documentary. Obviously, A Beautiful Mind got him his Oscar and several Emmys throughout the years, from Arrested Development, from the Jim Henson Idea Man documentary that came out last year. Is he going to direct a stage show? Come on, Ron. Come on, Ron. You can do it. Why not mix it up? Hugh Jackman, very strong contender for an EGOT. He's an Oscar short, which I am shocked by the fact that he hasn't received an Oscar yet. Received an Emmy for hosting the Tonys, which is hilarious. And you know what? Should count. That should count for one of each. But don't worry, he has won a Tony in 2004 from The Boy from Oz, as well as a special Tony Award in 2012. Received his Grammy for The Greatest Showman, and was nominated in 2012 for Les Mis. Has not been nominated since. But Hugh Jackman, I think you're due. I think you're due for your Oscar. You know, the death of Robin Hood looks pretty interesting. Who knows? Maybe he's in Secret Wars and he just knocks it out of the park. I don't know. Maybe he'll do another Logan. Logan should have been nominated. But we'll see. Definitely overdue. Definitely overdue. Lady Gaga is a Tony short. Received an Emmy for her Super Bowl performance. Has received so many Grammys, including one last night. Received an Oscar for A Star Is Born and is just shy of a Tony. So come on, Lady Gaga, hit the stage. Hit the stage. And now, who I honestly think will be our next EGOT. Lin-Manuel Miranda. Who I'm surprised has not already been EGOT status. He's got his Tonys for In the Heights and Hamilton. He's got his Grammys for In the Heights and Hamilton and Moana and Encanto. He's got his Emmy for the Tony Awards and for Hamilton. But what he's missing is the Oscar, which he was nominated for Moana and for Encanto and lost for both. But Lin is coming, man. Just come back for Moana 3, because they're obviously doing a third one. They had someone else do the music for 2 and it didn't hit. I'm sure they'll pay you a pretty penny for you to come in and get it done. But folks, that's our little presentation about who we have on the horizon. Some folks who are worth celebrating. Like we said, EGOTs, man, best that there is out there in the business. Shout out everyone who has worked to receive that status. Not an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do. Do the Golden Globes count? Maybe. They should. They should. EGOT. EGOT. There's some actors. You can get Tonys for non-musical performances. It's just the Grammy, you know, if you do Emmy, Golden Globe, Oscar, Tony, it opens up the door for non-singing actors and non-musical directors. It's tough. It's tough. The Grammys is a tough one. It's a tough one. But folks, let me know, who do you think is going to be the next EGOT recipient? Will it be Adele? Will it be Ludwig? Will it be Cynthia? Lin, Lady Gaga, Hugh? All of the above? In either case, let me know. And hey, this is probably going to be a YouTube video, so we'll go ahead and say, YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get more fun movies and entertainment, news and television and all the fun stuff. Alright, chat, that's going to be me for tonight. Thank you so much to everyone who stopped by live. I, as always, appreciate you. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves. We just got over being sick over here, so keep yourselves healthy. Stick around for more fun content later this week on all the other socials. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hey, if you missed Movie News Monday, it goes up every Tuesdays on YouTube. Stay safe, stay positive, absolutely, and have a great one, chat. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you at the movies.